Okay, here we are at the workbench, and I'm not going to pan around because my workbench is less than ideal in terms of its condition. So I wanted to capture something before I painted it, and just to share, this is model railroading is a learning experience, and as you're aware, I'm working on a GP7 project that the railings are the next major hurdle, and I've already done a lot on that project, so I'm like, I feel more comfortable if I kind of test some custom railing building skills on something that matters a little bit less to me. So I have a high side gondola here that was in the wrong geographic road name for my purposes. So I've painted most of it over, left some of the not the reporting marks, but left some of the car information there. Just looked, it was patched out because I didn't feel like dealing with doing all that new decaling on such a inexpensive low quality model, but more of it was just an attempt at a learning experience. So this particular, I chose this because it was missing its end railings, and I contemplated end ladders rather, and I contemplated using some caboose ladders I got that are Athearn, metal ladders that are just kind of snap in place for cabooses. Not particularly high quality or high detail, and I looked at that and I'm like, they just don't really quite fit the way I want. Although the original car, this was a roundhouse high side gondola, you can see I came in with some squadron putty and filled the holes. They had really large holes, so I can only imagine that the ladders that were on this originally were very bulky. So what I did is using 0.015 phosphor bronze wire and using the caboose ladder as a guide, I actually used a piece of blue painter's tape and set a piece of phosphor bronze wire parallel to it, and kind of unstuck this and used it to kind of get a width, and then I laid it parallel to use it for different pieces of railing section. And then what I did is I came in and laid another piece parallel to that, and I came in with just individual pieces and soldered them, and I soldered them on top because that actually ended up giving a little bit of vertical relief to the ladder. Each rung then was in a different plane than the stringers. So I did that, and after each piece I came in with a pair of wire cutters, cut it off, and didn't really too much worry about getting it perfectly flush, and just work my way down. And then what I did is I came back with a Dremel tool and just kind of trimmed the edges and just kind of this way along this piece, and then just kind of touched each corner with the face of the disc to kind of round it over. So the end result actually ended up being a pretty nice looking ladder. Kind of odd, and I don't know, I didn't check photos to see if it's typical for thrall gondolas to have ladders on the ends rather than the side, but that appears to be where they were on this model, so I just kind of went with it. And so I bent over each, the top pieces and the bottom pieces, and with a pin vise drilled some small holes, and then put a little CA to attach it. So I ended up with a ladder, and I just wanted to capture this before I painted it, that sometimes when you kind of do something mostly for a learning exercise, that kind of comes out okay. I'm sure, as we've all experienced, sometimes it doesn't. This particular case was one of those that it did. So I will, now having completed this, I'll go on to paint it, but now I can move on with a little bit more comfort in developing some custom-made railings for my GP7 project. So more to the finished product, all painted up, and some weathering. But again, the key purpose of this exercise was kind of fabricating the ladders. So like I said, I think they came out fairly well. I also did the stirrups, which just again some bronze phosphor wire. Definitely a little bit more realistic paint scheme than what was there before. Actually, while I was warming up the sides to try and bend them, actually had so much heat stress that it split, so I kind of used that to my advantage and made it look like it really did. And I'm pretty sure it's not the only gondola in the world that has a tear or a puncture of the side. So, and since it was very underweight, I put some weights, I just hammered some lead flat and super glued it to the bottom, and then took a knife and just kind of flicked some pieces of foam off of a larger block of foam to look like scrap, and glued all those down with white glue, and then kind of came back and painted it with several different colors of rust and gray and so forth to give it that kind of metallic scrap look. So now it's properly weighted, and as I said, that'll give me the confidence to start working on some railings on my GP7. So that hopefully will be the next video. Stay tuned for more. Thanks.